What should we talk
So
about? Oh,
the thing that comes
talk
up
about
in my
something.
work all the time at like a departmental level is this thing about leaders who rock up and are like, we really need to break down these silos and then sort of hand it to the team, like off you go team, break down the silos. Maybe we
Mm.
can chat about how do you actually do that? What does that look like and how it,
Mm.
as a sort of emerging and uh, growing manager, what do you do with dictates from on high with things like go break down the silos?
Yeah, that's a good one because we talk about it all the time, don't we? It's we have to get more, cross-functional work streams and talk to each other and but I think that's the thing is it comes down to not not talking to each other enough, not the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing sometimes because we're all just trying to get through the day and just trying to get through the to-do list and yeah, I think it also comes from most, I don't know, a lot of people, I'll try not to do too sweeping a generalization, but um, a lot of people maybe have come up in their trajectory through a particular area, and so they know that area really, really well, but they haven't worked across different areas of the business all that much, or they haven't worked with them. And so it can be really easy to think, those people over there, they don't know what they're doing because they don't do it the way I would do it. But you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know all of the constraints that they're working with, and and most of us don't have the opportunity to find that out. So, we don't
Mm.
work together on projects. We don't go and work in their hot desking wasn't a thing. So, you would never go and sit in somebody else's office and just work there because it was somebody else's office. And, teams don't mix. And um, there's a lot of, there are a lot of own goals that just are totally unnecessary mistakes that we end up making because oh, somebody's dropped the ball. Well, nobody even knows where the ball is supposed to be. Nobody's tracked like what that process was supposed to look like and when it's supposed to get handed from this team to that team and back to this team, and then which information gets shared and whose responsibility is that. And so I think there's a lot of work happening nowadays, at least in the teams that I've worked in, where you're putting together working groups that are more cross-functional and trying to address a particular thing. Okay, when a new program idea has been given a green light for development, who tells marketing so that can go up the website as subject to validation? It's like, oh, well, this team owns that paperwork. No, we don't get that paperwork to the end of the line. Like we never get that paper. So, then you end up getting everything's a scramble at the last minute because, nobody's worked out where those kind of trigger points should be for actions to be taken, what should be the um, you know, where those bridges need to be built to smooth the transition points. And I think we're not very good at the transitional bridges from this, particularly I'm thinking about the student journey, like from applicant to registered student or from registered student to alumni,
Mm.
and there's some really common points of transition that we haven't as a sector quite got right yet
We're
sometimes.
all so tied to silo level targets. So one
Mm,
of my big
mm,
bugbears, and I would challenge senior leaders who are like, break down the silos, is so if you're in take admissions as an example, if you're in a director, the most common combination is recruitment, marketing, and admissions, right? And you can have entirely contradictory targets within that same area. And you in admissions, are we're under pressure to make more offers. No one gives a crap about the quality of them because you can't, that's not a metric someone can count. They just want to know the number. So because you don't take longitudinal approaches to targets, so for example, flipping it the other way around, you see issues with, say, an institution gets in trouble with OFS over its retention and progression rates because not enough students are going from year one and year two. I guarantee you, admissions told them when they took those applicants in that they'd lowered the entry requirements too far. These guys weren't going to be equipped, set up for success. I may be telling a true story, but maybe this is hypothetical. Um, and you can see those triggers, but there's no mechanism because the pressure is offers, accepts. And
Hmm.
even weirder in the admissions and recruitment space is most of the institutions I've worked with, the buck stops at the unconditional firm accept. And I think this is ridiculous because loads of them will walk away and won't enroll if there's a bad enrollment
Hmm.
experience, if they change their mind, whatever. But
Hmm.
marketing and recruitment are like, our job is done. They're accepted and they've got no conditions left. I'm like, but the job isn't done. So I think one of the biggest issues about breaking down silos is that our targets are in conflict with each other some of the time,
Yeah.
and there are not. I don't know what the word is, but like wide targets that like encompass multiple bits. Everything's too like momentary in different
Yeah.
sections. And that was a
It,
terrible. Someone explained that better than I did.
no, I totally, because we've been doing KPIs and sort of, 5-year strategy and looking at all that. And it is really, really hard to it's hard to measure things that are difficult to quantify. And it's really hard. It's incredibly frustrating to be given targets that you have absolutely no control over. 7 of the 8 elements that go into that target, and yet you're going to be held responsible for that target. And so how do we do that better where accountability, being held accountable for things is inherently interdisciplinary. There's it's not
Yeah,
quite
it's
the
like
right word, but
one person still always has to be accountable for everything. It's like, why? If registry does one half of enrollment and admissions and recruitment do the other side of it, why are they not jointly accountable for
Well,
certain
they
things?
should be, because ultimately that shared accountability goes as far up the hierarchy as it needs to go until, for example, the university secretary or, you know, whoever the person is who has
six report.
ultimate oversight of all of those things.
Vice
The
chancellor
issue
usually
is
they
it
usually
breaks down in the
mm,
delegation scheme where they're delegating such big can you tell them on my delegations thread at the minute? But they're delegating such at such a conceptual level that then
Mhm.
each like director of those services or the registrar or whoever it is that's then setting the more defined granular targets isn't thinking about that because the delegation is like set off hairs running in different directions. So I think it's probably actually something that very senior leadership need to consider better.
person who just came in the room and said, guys, you need to break down the silos.
Yeah.
Like, lovely. As you are our senior leader, how are you going to enable us to do that?
I do think there is also two cultural things that I think could help.
Mm.
And was talking about this with a team I was doing some work with last week. One is being really conscious of our temptation to name a group as the problem. So it wasn't us, it was marketing. It wasn't us, it was HR, whatever. I think as managers, it would be really beneficial to watch and catch that behavior and go, I don't want to hear that it's marketing or HR. I want to hear who specifically so that we can have an accountability conversation with the person rather than letting, like, sort of dismissing this lack of follow through or whatever the challenge is as a group of people rather than an individual to like bring it down to a level of who is responsible for actually doing it. The other thing is often when we're in those situations where it's like marketing, recruitment, admissions, or whatever other functions get grouped together, being more conscious of the stakeholder, being stakeholder led rather than being team and function led. For example, an academic school might get a request for information from recruitment one week, a request for similar information from admissions the following week, and then like some update from marketing the following week. It's like, if you're all in the same directorate, can you not talk to each other about what it is that you need from your stakeholders and then bring that request in a structured and sensible way? Because the benefit upstream of that is you also get to flip it. So when you're making, recommendations and you come as a united front and they are used to hearing from you as a united front, group, whatever, you hold more sway. But it takes people getting out of their, well, I write a weekly report about this and I do a monthly report about that, and we do this other thing for this small group of people. Like,
Yeah.
actually, can you create one report that consolidates all of that, that is really robust and thorough and has the whole narrative?
Is exactly one of my projects that I tried to do in a previous role. It was exactly that. It's like we ask these departments for the same information 5 different ways on
Yeah.
5 different templates with a few columns different here or there, or a slightly longer or narrower time frame. And it's like it just no wonder people are frustrated and angry and
Yeah.
burning out because they're screaming about workload because we're not talking to each other about what it is we need. It's like, can we just make one template that we all then can go to and extract the information that we need for our own purpose? But it was like, this doesn't make any sense. It's we're duplicating effort all over the place,
Yeah.
partially
I
successful.
like the stakeholder model that you shared, Fiona. I was thinking it works internally too, like thinking about something that your team is leading on. You'll have close stakeholders like peers, in that, market. If it's clearing, there's people in marketing, people in IT. Like if you think of everything like a project, there's going to be people who've got, and that's what we mean by stakeholders for those who aren't used to the terminology. It's like people who have a vested interest in the outcome of the work, or who have a responsibility or accountability that fits under their piece of work. So there's different ones. There's like your internal ones, i.e., to have those conversations, to think about your stakeholders as a group. You also need to think about your internal stakeholders. You need to build that rapport with those different people who are in the kind of like in the sort of vicinity of you before you start thinking beyond that. I think that was the step I was thinking that might help people start with your adjacents before you go beyond that.
Yeah.
There we go. They can think about that all weekend after this episode and put it in action on Monday morning, go in firing with their stakeholder plan.
I
Go
think a
forth.
really helpful road into that though is just to sit down and map them. Like, who are your stakeholders?
Mhm.
Because I think
I
we're
do
often
like to do
so
that.
busy doing the do that we just couldn't, like, I don't know. Who are
Yeah.
they?
And be specific, just like you said earlier. Like, don't just write academics, like it's, yeah, but
Like,
who? Course
well,
leaders, tutors, who?
yeah, like course leaders, admissions tutors, directors of admissions, whatever. Like,
Placement
who are
people for
you
this information, or
asking for stuff and who are you sending stuff to?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Brilliant. I
cool.
think that's all we've got time for.
I think so.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Right. Bye.